Hello, and welcome to our Tangle of the Day. My name is Amy Lilien-Harper, and I am a certified Zentangle teacher as well as one of the children's librarians here at the Wilton Library. And I'm here today to bring you a Tangle. I'm just going to real quick go over my supplies. So you should have a pen with preferably one with a very fine point. This is my Micron 01, which is my favorite. You can see it has a very, very fine point. You can also work with a Micron PN, which I also like. That one's got a thicker point, but I don't like that one as much. So I'm going to work with my Micron 01. I also have my Zentangle pencil, although you can use any sort of soft lead pencil. And you can see it's quite small, and that allows me to work very easily, and you'll see when I get to that. And then you should also have a blending tool. This is called a tortillon. You can see the tip of mine's a little black because I've been using it. And so we're going to get started. The tangle I'm going to do today is called Arukas, and it's a really fun tangle because you get this really great meta pattern as you do it. And it looks really complicated when you're done, but it's not that complicated to do. You just have to stay really focused. So as always, before we start our Zentangle practice, we're going to take a couple deep breaths. And we're going to relax, and we're going to appreciate these wonderful materials and this time we have together to do this. And I am working on a bijou tile today, which is a small tile. The standard size tiles are bigger. This is a standard size tile right here. This is my little bijou, so you can see how much smaller it is. And I'm working on these for these videos to keep them shorter so you can really do them in one quick sitting and it's not a super long video to watch. So normally I would then do my four corner dots to get us started, but I'm actually not going to do that today because this particular tangle is very, on this little bijou, I want to maximize my space. I want to use all of my space. And you would normally also draw a string, but I don't think I'm going to do a string. I'm going to go straight to my ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by finding what is roughly the center, and it's not going to be perfectly centered, I guarantee it. And I'm going to draw an orb in the center. We don't call them circles because they're not perfectly round because we're humans and we can't make them perfectly round. So there you go. There's my orb. And you can see it's roughly the length of my pen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line starting at my orb. I'm going to make this one go to the corner. And then I am going to aura my line carefully. And so now I have my orb with one line radiating out from it and a second line auraing it. So it's kind of like a ray. And I'm going to turn my tile and I'm going to aim for roughly 6 of these lines. And I'm going to try to make them fairly evenly spaced around my orb. It's not going to be perfect because I can never get them perfect. I think this one's going to go this way. Be back pointing towards my corner. Now I want to do 2 more, so let's do this one like this. And then this last one's going to go this direction. Okay. So you see what I've done is I've drawn a series of lines and just auraed them. And they all go radiating out and around my orb here. So now that I've done that, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to just aura my orb. And what you can see that I'm doing, I'm rotating my tile, but I'm also, as I aura it, I'm not crossing back over those lines. I'm circling around them, I'm picking up my pen, and then I'm continuing to make that circle. And the reason that I'm doing that, so we're doing what we call in Zentangle drawing behind. So you see I've gone all the way around and I've drawn behind. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to aura one of my lines. It doesn't matter which one I start with. And I like to hold my pen so that I can see what I'm auraing. So rather than trying to aura this one, which is going to be hard for me to see and not as comfortable, I'm actually going to aura all the outer lines and then rotate back and aura the inside line. So I'm auraing this line, and I'm auraing this line, and I'm auraing this line, and I'm auraing this line. Now I'm going to do this one, which is our last one. And now I'm going to turn my tile around and I'm going to aura on the other side. And you can tell which side I've done because you can see that this one is on top of my little aura around my circle, and they're on this side, it goes all the way to the circle. So this one needs an aura. And 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 now you can see I'm back to where I started. So now, guess what? I'm going to aura my circle again. So I'm just going to go around and aura my circle. I'm going to try to keep the lines so that they're roughly equidistant, so it really does look like a circle that is just behind this. Sort of like a gear, I guess. And now I can see I got back to the beginning because now this part of my circle is above the last line. So it's time to start with the lines again. And you can see this is very repetitive. So the key to this is just keeping track of where you are so that you don't lose track or somewhere you're not supposed to until you put in your next line or you've auraed your circle. Although, as always in Zentangle, we have no eraser, we have no mistakes. And if you accidentally auraed when you weren't supposed to, it doesn't matter. It's going to come out good anyway. Nobody's going to notice. You're going to be the only person who knows. Now you can see this one's on top and this one isn't. So I've now gotten to where I started. So now I'm going to rotate my tile and I'm going to go the opposite direction. And you can see that you can see better what I'm doing when I work going this direction than if I had gone holding it the other way, because my pen is not covering up my original tile, my original line there. So I can really see what I'm doing. So I definitely encourage you to make sure you rotate your tile as you go, because it really does make it easier. It keeps your hand comfortable, and it's much easier to make your lines consistent if you are holding your pen in the same way for each one. Okay, so that was my last one. And now I'm once again going to aura the circle. So you can see that there's a lot of repetition in this one. And you can also see that my auras of the circle are getting, my little sections are getting smaller and smaller, and that's what we want. So now I'm going to aura this one again. And I'm going to continue to go around the same way as I have been doing. I've done this one a bunch of times recently, and it always comes out a little different. The other thing you're going to notice as I do this is you're going to see that this really cool meta pattern is going to start to appear. One of the things I think is really cool about so many of our Zentangle patterns, and I've reached my end, so I'm going to go the other way, is how you create a pattern and you follow a series of steps and you feel like you're creating one thing, and then all of a sudden this totally new and different meta pattern appears in the middle of what you're doing. And so you get some really great, interesting patterns that way. And it creates a whole lot of interest, which I really like. Okay, and I'm going to do this one. And okay, and I'm back to my beginning again. So now I'm going to do another. I'm going to do my aura in. And you're starting to see that meta pattern appear. I did this before with bigger circle in the center, and my meta pattern did not appear as quickly as I wanted it to. So this time I made the circle a little bit smaller, and I might have made it even a little smaller than I should have, but there's really no right and wrong here. It just makes it easier for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, and now I'm back to my beginning. And you can see here, I'm actually starting to need to actually almost do like a V. That's happening in this one too. Because my my little circular aura there is getting so tiny, which has to do with the size of my original circle. See, this one's going to be almost like a V too. And you should be starting to see what the pattern that I'm talking about that's appearing is going to be. Now I'm doing my aura, my circle aura. Okay. And I believe I'm back to where I started. So I'm going to make my, and I'm almost done here. This one is just about where I want it to be. So I'm going to be able to stop inking very soon. Yours might need more lines. Yours might need less lines. It's totally up to you. One of the great things about Zentangle practice is that everybody's comes out a little bit unique and different. So I'll teach a class and I will teach everybody exactly the same thing. They'll all be watching me. They'll all be learning with the same steps and the same string. And everybody's will come out a little bit different because we all have a slightly different style. We tend to do our lines a little bit more, a little differently. Everybody's is a little unique. So it's kind of like the same but different, which is really fun. Okay, I think I may be just about done. I think this may be my last one. I might need one more after this. Okay. Yeah, I think this is my last one. I'm going to do this is going to be my last one of these. That one was a little bit high, but that's okay. I did that one a little higher to give myself a little more room to finish off that. Okay, now I'm back to my beginning. So I'm going to finish this off. This one's so narrow, it's hard for me to tell if I've already done it. And that's my last one. And now we're going to do one final one. And what you should see is that what's appeared is a star shape. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my pen away. I'm going to get out my pencil. And there are tons of ways to shade this. There's tons of ways to shade everything. But what I like to do with this one is I like to really emphasize that star shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of graphite down on either side of each of these sort of sections of my star. And you can see I'm holding my pencil at an angle. It's tucked inside my hand so that I'm not holding it up and down. I'm holding it at an angle. And I'm going to take my tortillon and I'm going to just shade. I don't want to shade on top of my little sections. What I want to do here is shade on either side of them. Now they got really narrow on this particular one tile, so I'm getting a little bit on the top ones, but mostly I want to keep that lead, that graphite shading on the outside, on the rays rather than on my circle. All right, so now I have done that. Whoops, I don't think I did this one. Let's just get a little more. A little more. Now, it looks really stark still, so what I like to do with this is I like to put a little bit of graphite around the inside of my original circle, and then I kind of draw it out, but I do it unevenly, so I leave kind of like a little white section, but not perfectly centered, and that gives it a lot of dimension. You can make it, I could have left more white. I'll show you a couple other examples of this. Then what I'm also going to do to add a little extra intensity is I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of graphite on the outside of each of these sections. So it doesn't just end. I'm going to emphasize those rays a little bit. And I'm just going to put a little bit of graphite there, and I'm just going to spread it out. And this one is probably going to almost fill the space, but in most of them, it's just going to give it a little. And this is all going to just give it a lot of dimension. Shading gives our tangles so much dimension. And it's such a joy to shade tangles because you don't need to worry about what direction the light is coming from. You can just kind of do whatever you want. So it's very freeing if you are either an artist who likes to have room to move or somebody who's not really used to figuring out where the light is. I'm just going to spread that original bit of lead that I did a little bit further out to emphasize that star shape a little more. And I did another one of these that I videoed, but the video didn't come out it came out of focus. So I couldn't save the video, but I want to show it to you so you can see. So you can see with this one, which actually came out really well, evenly separated. But you can see in this one, I did not shade the center quite as much. So I got kind of a different effect. And my rays were a little bit wider. My whole thing was a little wider. So, okay, so now we've done this much and we have completed Arukas. So we're going to turn our tile over. We're going to get out our pen and we are going to write out the name of this tile, of this tangle. So we'll remember it. That's an R. So it says Arukas. It's A-R-U-K-A-S. I apologize for my messy handwriting. And you can sign your tile and date it. Today, actually, the day that I'm doing this is April 1st. So I'm writing 4/1/20. And now I'm going to turn it back over and I'm going to take a look at it and I'm going to turn it around and see what direction I like it best. And then I'm going to sign it. I think I like it like this. So I'm going to get my pen and I'm going to put my chop, which is your initials, not your full name to sign because there's not really enough room. So I'm just going to put my chop like right here. And there's my chop. And that is Arukas. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to having you join me for Tangle again.